It's a good day to have a good day. Hello, everybody. My name's Cece Ray. Thanks for joining me here at Break the Dish, where we break the news and dish out the tea. We are talking Traitors. That's right, Season 4, Episode 8. This is your spoiler alert right here. Spoiler alert. If you have not seen, Episode 6, 7, or 8, pause this video, go back, watch the show, and then come back and we'll recap together because it's a lot of fun to recap together, don't you think? We left off knowing this was going to be traitor versus traitor. And oh boy, that did not disappoint at all. Before we get into it, though, you know what to do. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because here we break the dish. Recapping Traitors, Season 4, Episode 8. This is your last spoiler alert. If you have not seen Episodes 6, 7, or 8, pause this video right now, go watch the show, come back, so that we can recap together, because it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun here. We're going to pick it up exactly where we left off, and that is in the turret. If you recall, Lisa Rinna, she got banished, okay? So, of course, the faithful are all happy, and now, of course, we're in the turret, and remember, at the round table, Candiace decided to do her quote-unquote throwaway vote, and it was for Rob. Yeah. So they are up in the turret, and the hoods come off, and sneaky Rob says, "Good evening." And here's Candiace, with her eyebrow cocked up and her lips perched, like, mm-hmm. And Rob's like, "Can I explain myself?" She's like, "Oh, please do, And listen, I get where he was coming from. Look, the heat was on Lisa for sure. That wasn't Rob's fault. That was Jam's fault. I mean, as they were like literally carrying Jam away, he was screaming, "It was Lisa! It was Lisa!" So of course she's going to have the heat on her. You know what I mean? So of course Alan now comes in and he says, per the rules of the Traitors, now it's down to 2 of them. So they have the choice. They can either murder as usual or they can recruit. And it was so funny too, because when Alan comes in the turret, he's like, "It's a little bit awkward." Yeah, you think, Alan? Just a little bit? So Snaky Rob is like, "I don't think we should recruit. I think we should just stick to the 2 of us and murder." So Candiace agrees. So she says, "What do you think of Steven?" And he's like, "Yeah, Steven's good. It would cause confusion, but there's a lot of people talking about Steven. Like that, Steven's being buzzed around his name." And Candiace is like, "What about Colton?" He's like, "Oh, I don't want to murder Colton. I mean, he's tight with Colton." Candiace is like, "Well, what about Natalie?" He's like, "Well, Natalie's smart. She could be dangerous. But again, her name is floating around too. So technically, in good faith, Snaky Rob says to cunning Candiace, "I'll let you do this. I'll let you choose." But in reality, he knew that Colton was floating Candiace's name around to a whole bunch of people. Okay? Now, on Candiace's side, of course she wants to break up that pack of her and Colton. I mean, Snaky Rob and Colton, But Snaky Rob, he's not going to give that information up to her, that Colton was, floating her name around. So he says, your choice, okay? So now it's the next morning. Everybody's getting up for breakfast. And, they're all straggling in, 2 or 3 at a time. Dorinda, I have to say, I'm really disappointed in the way Dorinda is playing this game. I really thought after what happened last season and, she was banished so quickly, I really thought that she would come in not trusting anybody, like eyes everywhere, ears everywhere, you know what I mean? She's kind of playing like an airhead. I mean, matter of fact, last episode, when someone brought it to her attention that Lisa could be a traitor, she was like, oh no, it can't be Lisa. She's my friend. Yeah, so have you seen her in action? I mean, there's a reason why she's called Lisa effing Rinna, and it's not because, butterflies are flying around and birds are singing around her. Let's be real. But Dorinda says, she couldn't believe that it was Lisa. You just have to laugh. Then Mara says, what about Candiace? Because Colton had mentioned to her, he thought it might be Candiace. Now Johnny, in his confessional, says, look, I don't want to think it's Candiace because Candiace is like one of the closest people to him in the castle. So he doesn't even want to have that thought. So, each one starting to straggle, come on in. And the last ones come in. And there's this big, and guess who Candiace murdered? Colton. You got that right. So Candiace really did want to break that alliance between Snaky Rob and Colton. But what Candiace missed was that important piece of information that Rob was not going to give up, which was Colton had been floating her name around to a whole bunch of people. So by her murdering him, the lines just went straight back to her. It did. So after breakfast, cutting Candiace, she's in the kitchen with Kristen and Johnny. And she's saying, did you notice how Rob was he got really nervous and fidgety and he was dropping his fork? And these two are like this. But really, they should have just been like this. I mean, they just had these blank looks on their face, like, I don't know what to believe anymore type deal. And outside, you have, it was Mark, Steven, Snaky Rob, Natalie, and then, God love Eric, he comes running over like a 5-year-old, arms and feet going a mile a minute, and he goes running up like he's got some, big news. And he's like, I think it's Candiace, and even Mark is saying, like, I think it's Candiace. And Natalie agrees. Snaky Rob's just listening. And then Snaky Rob just turns around and says, the last thing Colton said to me was he thought it was Candiace. And they're all like, You see what I'm saying? So now we're at the mission. This was a really interesting mission. So what they did was first Alan asked the group for 3 people, because these three people would have a chance to win a shield. So Mark says he hasn't won a shield yet, so he goes, he's number 1. Kristen hasn't won a shield yet, she goes. Eric is like, I would like to have a shield. Rob says, I think there's a really good chance I might get murdered tonight. Like, I would like to have a shield. And Eric goes, you know what? You haven't had a shield yet. Go ahead. So it is Kristen, Mark, and Rob. They go into the gallery of art. Okay. Now, the rest of them are in the house. Now, how this works is that they read a clue. They have to now take these cameras and they have to reenact the picture of the way it was described on their clue. They take a picture. That picture is then sent to the 3 that are in the gallery of art, and then they have to find a canvas that matches that picture, basically. Okay? For every one they get right, they get $3,000. Okay? And the group of them that are at the house, they are split up into 2 groups. All right? So each one has a camera. Well, Dorinda's group, I mean, they were nailing it left and right. I mean, they got them all right. The other group, not so much. Just saying. While they're in the gallery of art, Kristen finds the shield. So we now know Kristen has the shield. And she told them that she got it. So this really tells you that Kristen trusts Rob and Mark, So at the end of the mission, they got $3,000 for each one right. So they wound up getting a total of $12,000. Not too shabby. So that brings their prize pot to a total of $150,000. No, wait a minute. $150,800. Not too bad. They still have a few missions to do, so that's not too bad. You know what I'm saying? But now, of course, this is when everything seems to get interesting, right? Is when everybody goes back before the round table. Everyone's in different rooms talking and so forth, And Stephen and Candiace are talking about who brought up Lisa's name first, okay? Snaky Rob, he comes into the room, and Steve goes, I think you actually brought up Lisa's name first, didn't you? And you could tell it kind of like threw him off a little bit. He's like, yeah, I guess so. And he looks at Candiace and he's like, can I talk to you for a minute? And meanwhile, before this, Johnny had already gone to Candiace. Yeah. And told Candiace that her name was being mentioned. Okay? So Steve leaves. Now, see, I would think that's weird. If I was sitting there talking to someone and all of a sudden somebody came in and was like, can I have a word with this person? Do you mind if you leave? I would be like, what can't you say in front of me? That right there, I would put an eyebrow up to. You know what I mean? So, cutting Candiace, she says to Rob, how is my name coming up? And he's like, I've heard everyone saying your name. She's like, yeah, but how did it start? He's like, Colton. She's like, and when did you find this out? He's like, this morning. Candiace is like, you sure you didn't find out yesterday? He's like, yeah, why? She's like, because that would make it really convenient of why you let me murder Colton. If he was floating my name around. And Rob was kind of like, you do know this is a game, right? Like it's 100% a game. She's like, oh, I know. He's like, I think you're really taking this personal. And finally, he just comes out with, you don't really trust me, do you? She's like, oh, no, I trust you. I didn't say that. She says, I think we have different values. But she says to Snaky Rob, listen, if I get banished, I promise you, your name is going to come up. Rob's like, that's kind of bad sportsmanship. Candiace is like, it's not bad sportsmanship. Because you're not a traitor. You're a snake. And basically that conversation ends with, you do what you're going to do, and I'm going to do what I have to do. That was like cunning Candiace's last words to Rob, So we now know, like, this is going to happen. And we also know this is going to be a very interesting round table. Make this Valentine's Day unforgettable with a gift that speaks directly to the heart. Whether you are celebrating a new romance or a long-standing love, YCZ Fragrances have a scent for every story. Experience high-end perfumery without the premium price tag. Each bottle in their collection uses high-grade scent oils for a rich, long-lasting aroma that rivals luxury designer brands. You can treat your partner or yourself to a sophisticated experience that feels indulgent and special. Use the link in the description below to make this Valentine's Day special for the both of you. So, everyone's sitting at the round table. Of course, Alan comes in and does his, like, the floor is yours, type deal, And Johnny starts it off, and he says, look, at this point in the game, it's really hard to know who to trust, who not to trust, And he said, I do know that Colton had mentioned your name, Stephen. Stephen's like, what? Me? That type of reaction. And then Dorinda kind of chimed in. Dorinda was like, well, I have a question for you, Stephen. Now that we know that Lisa was a traitor, she's like, why did Lisa dump her gold into your box? Remember, that was the mission last before this one. And she's like, because I don't remember the two of you having any type of relationship. He had a really good explanation, actually. He said, she didn't just dump her gold into my box. I actually went to her because I knew she didn't have enough to be in the top 6. He said, so I asked her, could I have your gold? And she said, yeah. He goes, had I had not approached her, she would have never dumped her gold in my box. And so then Eric comes up with, I have a question for Candiace. Like, I don't understand your quote-unquote throwaway vote. Remember, she voted for Rob and called it her throwaway vote. And so Candiace starts to explain, listen, I went in there thinking I was going to vote for Natalie, but then after listening to Natalie, I just wasn't convinced that she was a traitor. And there just wasn't enough evidence against Lisa. Really? Not even Jam Jam yelling? Probably down the driveway and into the SUV and probably on the flight back home. It was Lisa, But then Candiace is like, Rob, I noticed this morning that you seem to be extremely nervous. You had hit the table, dropped your fork. You just seemed really upset. Rob is like, well, I wasn't nervous. He's like, but I was upset. I think everybody here knows that Colton and I were tight. And so, yeah, I was a little upset. And I'm sure that probably wasn't the first fork I've dropped in my lifetime, which is kind of funny because she's really reaching at this point. But she doesn't end there. Oh, no. because then she brings up, well, first Mara actually brings up to Candiace. She's like, I don't understand. So yesterday you said that was a throwaway vote towards Rob, but now it sounds like you're suspicious of Rob. Candiace is like, I think that Rob was using Colton to get at Lisa, to kind of do Rob's dirty work. Rob's like, what? And so she's really double downing on this story. Well, before she stops, before anybody can go on, Alan comes out and says, time's up, time to vote. And I don't know about you, but I'm thinking, oh my God, who's everybody going to vote for? I didn't get any resolution, So the crazy thing is that every single person, except for Natalie voted for Tara because apparently Tara mentioned Natalie behind her back, so she voted for Tara. But besides Natalie, every single person voted to banish Cunning Candiace. You guessed it. So Cunning Candiace is now banished. And of course, she stands up there and, I'm going to try not to cry. This experience, it's just changed me, But she's a traitor. Well, everybody's jumping up and down. Listen, the faithful got 2 out in a row. I didn't quite see that coming, especially by the way, the chatter had ended around the round table. I definitely did not see that coming. So, now, of course, it's just Sneaky Rob, okay? So he's up at the turret. Here comes Alan. And he says, how does it feel taking all the housewives out? Sneaky Rob's like, oh, it feels good, He's like, well, per the rules, you must recruit. He said, now, when you offer the recruit, they can either accept it, they will come upstairs back to the turret with you tonight, and the both of you will commit your first murder together, or they won't accept the recruitment and they'll be murdered. Okay? So Alan's basically like, who are you thinking? So Snaky Rob, he's like, well, I could do Steven, but Steven's name's kind of going around with everybody. He's like, so I could use that to my advantage, but I don't know. He's like, I could go with Mark because he trusts Mark, but he feels as though he's already got Mark in his pocket, so he doesn't need him as a traitor. And Rob's like, I could go with Eric, which when he said Eric, I was like, really? Eric? So you see now Alan delivers the letter, sits it on the chair. The door now opens, and long and behold, it's Eric. And Eric's like, oh my God, I knew this was going to happen. Oh my gosh, so dramatic. Until he sits down and opens the letter. And he's like, what is this? And he's like, I don't know if I can do this or not. Could I do this? I don't know, And so the next scene we see Snaky Rob outside on the steps with his cloak over top of him. And here comes Eric down the steps. Now, I question Snaky Rob's decision on recruiting Eric. Eric is the same one who was tied to a tree and convinced the entire round table that because he hears notes all the time, he knew exactly whose laughter he heard, and he pointed to Tiffany. Wrong. Matter of fact, when he got the letter from the traitor saying that his presence is being requested in a secret meeting, he says to the camera, "This is the handwriting of the traitor, and I know this handwriting. It's Johnny." Wrong. I don't know if I would trust Eric. To be honest, listen, I think Eric's going to squeal like a little pig. I'm just saying. I could see him doing that. You know what I mean? Now, of course, when Rob takes down his cloak, Eric's blown away that it's him. He's like, "Oh my gosh." But I don't know if I would trust Eric. I really don't. Unless we see a side of him that we haven't seen before, oh yeah, he's going to squeal like a little pig. I'm just saying. But what do you think? Do you think he's going to accept it? Listen, I don't really think... Does he have a choice? I mean, if he doesn't accept it, he's out of the game. And then if he does accept it, then who's going to get murdered? I know. They leave us on such a cliffhanger every day, every week. They leave us on such a cliffhanger. Would you choose Eric? That would have been the last person I would have chosen. I thought the idea of Mark was really good. Mark and him are solid. I think he could trust Mark. Everybody else trusts Mark. I don't know. The heat is a little bit on Rob now as it is. I mean, how could it not be? It's only going to be a matter of time before somebody puts 2 + 2 together. You know what I'm saying? He voted for Lisa. He voted for Candiace. Candiace did that throwaway vote. And then she was guns a-blazing for him. So I can only imagine that somebody's going to turn around and say, it could be that she was just trying to get another traitor out. And he would have to defend himself, right? But choosing Eric as the new traitor? Oh, yeah. I don't know. That could be the end of it for Rob. Snaky Rob. I don't know. I think he chose wrong on this one. This one's going to squeal like a little pig. I just know it. But what do you think? I love to start a conversation. Make sure you comment down below. And before you do, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, because here we break the dish.